All right, good morning. So we're going to be talking today about concurrent enrollment. I am Bethany Maddox, one of our high school academic counselors. I work with learners with last names A through K.
Yes, and I'm Heather Feckerata, the other academic counselor, and I work with learners L through Z.
Okay.
Perfect. So what is concurrent enrollment? So concurrent enrollment is essentially when a learner takes classes at the community college while they're still enrolled in high school. So most of the colleges allow it. Some have age restrictions, that you have to be a certain grade or age to take the classes at the community college. So it's always best to check with the college that you're interested in to see if they have any age or grade requirements. Most of it is tuition free. However, there are some that still charge the high school learners. We don't put the concurrent enrollment classes on master agreements, so you will have to pay for books and materials. The great part is, the high school learners can earn both high school and college credit at the same time. If you see a college using the term dual enrollment, most of the time that means that they have an agreement with a specific high school that they do college classes with. We call ours concurrent enrollment because we do not have those agreements with colleges. So our learners will be taking college classes at the college or some of them online through that college. Why should I participate? Well, there's lots of reasons, even more than we have listed here. But a typical college class is 3 units, and a 3-unit class will equate to a year's worth of high school credits. So that can kind of get you going quicker, earning your high school credits. You could graduate earlier. Some foreign, like it says on the slide, some foreign languages are 20. That is best to ask your counselor, so either Beth or myself, if you have questions about a foreign language at a specific college. If the classes are transferable to a UC, they get a weighted grade, meaning an A is worth a 5, B is 4, etc. You can also earn an AA degree while you're in high school, which we have had a few learners do that. Some of the classes will also help you meet the A to G admissions requirements. Obviously, it shows you're college ready if you're going to a 4-year university. One thing I would really like to point out is a lot of the CTE courses are available to high school students. So right now, we have at least 2 that I know of, 12th graders graduating from high school who have done so much community college CTE classes. They're also getting their certificate, one in welding and one in HVAC. So it's kind of a great opportunity for you to be career ready when you're done with the community college classes. Next slide, Beth. There we go. There's a lot of information on this slide, so I'm just going to kind of run through it quickly. Again, this is being recorded. You can always refer back to this. So the requirements are 11 units or less. This is because you have to be part-time at the community college while you're full-time in high school. Since we don't put community college classes on our master agreement, you do have to take at least 4 high school classes before we allow you to take those concurrent enrollment classes. Start the process early. Honestly, I have a lot of learners asking me now, I want to take classes in the spring. I'm like, well, then get that ball rolling. Okay. A lot of the colleges have their spring catalogs ready to go. So let's get that ball rolling. If that's something you're ready to do for next semester, order official transcripts. This is kind of honestly, I'm going to say the step that most learners forget. Once you're done with that community college class, we need you to send that transcript to us as soon as you can, as soon as it's available. That way we can give you the credit for the class that you've taken. If you wait I'll be honest, sometimes I get a little panicky when I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I have this learner who is, getting ready to graduate and they're deficient, in some credits. And then they go, well, I took that class. Well, I need that transcript. Hopefully that makes sense. If you want the A to G credit, you must at least get a C in the class. That would be even for any high school class you were taking for A to G credit as well. This is an interesting one. The state doesn't permit high schoolers to enroll in PE classes. I know it seems a little weird, but those are the rules. So we have to abide by them. And then once you're 18, so if you're a 12th grader, even an 11th grader who's already 18, you still need this form if you're still enrolled in high school. It's a special admit concurrent enrollment form. I think we have an example of what that looks like later on in the presentation. That's just saying that your high school is allowing you to take this class, that either Beth or I think you're ready to take the class. Okay, so here's some key things you're going to be looking for in the college catalog. This is just a screenshot of one of the community colleges catalog of their classes. So these are what you're going to be looking for. Is it transferable to a UC and a CSU? So in order to get the bump in GPA, we're really going to be making sure it says UC. How many units is the class? Because this is going to depend on how much high school credit you're going to get. A 3-unit or more class is going to give you 10 high school credits, with, again, that exception of possibly a foreign language class. And then really important is to check if there's a prerequisite. A lot of times we have learners that, want to take, say, pre-calculus, but they've only finished, through geometry or something in high school. So we just need to make sure that we're making sure that you're qualified to take the class you're trying to take. Who's ready? Well, honestly, I'm going to say it's going to be the mature learner. The community colleges, college in general, right? They are looking at you like you are already an adult. Even though you're in high school, they're going to treat you like an adult. The learner themselves has to be able to navigate everything. If you are a learner with a disability, you're really going to have to be up on your self-advocacy, because you're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to be able to have to email, speak in person to your professors or any administrators at the school. One other thing, when you're doing your English classes, even some of your history classes, art, right? We've seen this before. You may encounter content that is mature. So if you or your learner is not ready for that level of discussion or readings or visual images, please keep that in mind. The professors are not going to treat your learners any different than they do the 20-year-olds in the class. So keep that in mind. We're looking for learners that are mature enough that can handle the expectation of being an adult. Oh, back to you, Bethany.
All right, so we have a couple of middle school learners or parents here today. So we do want to talk a little bit about how it might differ for a middle school learner than it would for a high school learner. So one thing we want to mention, and this is true of any high school classes as well as concurrent enrollment, is that middle schoolers cannot earn high school towards graduation credits until they're in high school, right? So if you take a college class or you take a high school course while you are in middle school, those will not count towards your high school graduation requirements, but they certainly will help you to move on to whatever comes next. So just be aware of that. You can meet A to G admissions requirements while in middle school through those methods though, and admissions requirements for other colleges. Concurrent enrollment may not be free, depending on the college's policy. So sometimes for our younger learners, for those out, under the age of high school, they will be charged even if it's free for high schoolers. So you just have to make sure you know the policies. As a general rule, they still are tuition free, but there are some that will make you pay if you're still in middle school. They also, you guys may need special permission from the college's dean. So there may be like an extra step of that extra permission meeting with the dean, and they want to, again, make sure, are you a mature enough learner to be taking these classes? And in addition to that, some will even require a letter from us recommending you, saying, yes, we think this learner is ready, because ultimately they want to make sure that we're approving learners who are going to do well and succeed and be successful with those college classes. So before we move on, I did have one more poll I want to put out there. So we're going to try this again, guys. This is the last one, and it has a little bit more to do with if you're thinking about this or you've done this already, what subjects or what areas were you wanting to sort of cover for concurrent enrollment? So pop in there and give us your answer, and we'll take a look at that together in a second. Okay, one more. All right, there we go. Okay, interesting. So we're going to share this out. It looks like 60% of us, about 3 out of the 5 of you are looking at core classes. So English, history, science, math, some of those GEs perhaps to try and get ahead for college later. A bunch of you are also thinking about foreign language, almost all of you. So that's another one that is a big favorite. A lot of people will do the foreign language. Heather mentioned it a little bit earlier that we have some of the colleges you can actually in one semester cover 2 years of high school content. And so if you look at a lot of college admissions, especially like A to G, that minimum requirement for college admissions is typically 2 years of a foreign language. So you can get that finished in one semester at a lot of the colleges. We have somebody interested in an art class and somebody interested in electives. I will tell you that if you've never done it before, that's often where Heather and I will suggest you start. Before you dive into an English class or a math class, let's start with something a little bit easier. Let's start with something, a little less intense so that you can get a feel for the expectations and the pacing and all of that and see if it's a good fit. And then once you've sort of had that experience, then we can branch out to some of those more core classes. Awesome. Okay, good to know. So we're going to talk a little bit now about using concurrent enrollment credits. So most of the California Community College courses will transfer to either the UC or Cal State system. This is might vary based on your major. So there's some majors where that's not necessarily true or you need some extra stuff. But for the most part, those are going to transfer within our California college system. And many of them will also transfer to out-of-state public universities. And our private universities. Some colleges will not allow concurrent enrollment classes to transfer if they were taken for high school credit. So that's something you want to keep in mind. And these are typically our more highly selective private schools that will say, you took that for high school credit, we're not going to give you credit at the college level. They also may limit the number of credits that you can transfer if you're going in as a freshman. So these are all things to keep in mind when you're thinking about doing concurrent enrollment, if you have a certain goal in mind. One thing to think about is even if you do want to get into a highly selective university, and they do have a policy that restricts how much you can transfer in as a freshman, it may still be a good idea to do because it might help you get into that university, right? So if you're showing that you're college ready while in high school, and you go in with an understanding that I'm going to do this work, but I might have to, still do some extra work when I get to college. This won't necessarily knock out college units if I go to one of these specific schools. And it really varies by the college. So if you're already thinking about universities that you might be interested in, I would recommend that you look into their policy for freshmen and how freshmen admits and how many units do they let you bring in? And is there a restrictive policy about that? I can say off the top of my head, I know like USC, they have restrictive, Stanford, I believe, any of your Ivy Leagues, those types of universities. You got any you want to throw out there, Heather?
Vanderbilt.
There you go. So these are some schools that you're going to see some restrictions on. So it's good to kind of know the policies if you're thinking about those highly selective schools and how that might impact your decisions regarding concurrent enrollment. Something we hear a lot of is learners who say, well, I'm going to finish my AA while I'm in high school, and then I'm going to go transfer somewhere. That's not how it works. just so you guys are aware, at the majority of universities, if you are applying as a high school student, you're applying as a freshman. So you're not applying as a transfer student. So just be aware of that because it makes a difference in your application, right? Now, if you're applying to a school that is going to take all of your units that you've done towards that AA, you could very well apply as a freshman and then have junior standing when you get on campus. We talked a little about the CTE programs. Heather mentioned welding, HVAC. There are lots of different certificate programs. There's a bunch of schools that do pilot lessons, pilot programs, all kinds of great stuff that you can do at the community college. There's actually was a grant passed, I don't know, a few years back that gave the community colleges a whole bunch of money to set up some awesome career technical programs within their schools. And one of the stipulations of that is that they make it available to the community high schools in their area and the high school students in their areas. And so that's why we have these great opportunities to go and do these career technical programs at the community college. So you can take industry classes from industry professionals and actually start, like Heather said, preparing for a career while you're still in high school. I mean, think about that. How many kids can leave high school and immediately go into a specialized field? If you're finishing welding, or I think what was the other one you mentioned?
HVAC,
you know, something like that while you're in high school. Think how marketable you are. The minute you get out of high school, you can go and get a good paying job. So hands-on experience with state-of-the-art equipment, transferable credit with certain programs. So even if you're doing those classes, they still could count towards an AA and you could transfer on beyond there. It doesn't stop you from doing that. But think about how much easier it might be to get through and pay for college if you've got a good job while you're doing it and you've got some units going with you. A wide variety of career paths. There are some that have age restrictions. So there are some, if you look at them, they're going to say you have to be 18 just for safety reasons. So just check out the restrictions on age for those as well. If you're interested in taking CTE classes, you can email us at cte@ileadexploration.org, and we can kind of help make a plan for what classes to take or what program you might want to focus on. So here's the steps. So if you were the one who's here to find out how it works here at iLEAD, here's how it works. So for all of our learners, we have what we call our concurrent enrollment learner agreement. This is basically a document that we have you sign understanding certain things. And that's a lot of what we've already talked about today. Understanding that your learner needs to be mature, that your learner is going to be the one who will be the primary contact for the school. Understanding that you need to order a transcript, and you know, that you don't get credit for the class on our end until we receive that official transcript from the college. Lots of different things that we want to just make sure you know about before entering into a concurrent enrollment class. And so we have that little form that we have you sign. Then you're going to follow the admissions directions from the community college. So start that application and get your school ID, and then start looking at potential classes on their schedule or in the course catalog. Figure out, what do I want to take? Oftentimes we're going to recommend that you pick a few. Even if your goal is one class, as a high schooler, you typically get last pick. So you might be frustrated if you only got one class approved and that class fills up. Now you got to come back and get another class approved in many cases from us and go through that process again. And now by the time you get that class approved, maybe that one's full. So oftentimes we'll recommend put 2 or 3 on there. And with the understanding you're only going to take one of them, but they're all approved. And so you can get into any of those if first choice or even second choice is not available. You're going to complete the special admit form, and we're going to look at an example of that in a minute, with the desired college course names and codes. Some are actually having a digital request now, which is really, really nice actually for Heather and I. So you can just go in and you can put in our email address, and it'll come directly to our email, and we sign off on it and send it back to them. Some are still using paper forms, and so we'll look at what that looks like. Those you will sign, fill out all the information, sign, student signs, parent signs, and send that through your EF. And your EF will take care of getting that to us in a specific way so that we can send it off with a signature back to you. And then we will send that back and you will send that to the college. So if you get the paper form, you will have to then upload that paper form to the college or walk it into the office, whatever their preference is. Here's an example of a concurrent enrollment special admit form. This is one from Antelope Valley College. It just kind of shows you what's going to be on here. They need to be completed each semester, so it's not like you do it once and you never have to see us again about it. Every semester that you want to take classes every term, a separate form needs to be done, approving those specific classes. So you're going to have your information as a student, your college student ID will usually be on there. What term are you doing this for? What's the name of your school? iLEAD hybrid, that's us. Your student signature, parent signature, and then a signature from, there's a place for us to sign as school officials, and then a place for you to put your classes. Typically, they're going to want to see the course code. So for example, English 101 or History 107, those are your course codes. And then they're also going to want to see your course number or your section number. And so those are usually specific to the section of the class. So the specific day and time that you want to take those classes, and then how many units they are. So all that information will be on there. If it's a digital form, you'll be entering that same information. So make sure you have it prepared before you start the form. Sometimes, like I said earlier, we'll want you to list additional courses just in case your first choice is full. And as we said before, the maximum number of units we will allow credit for in a given semester is 11. So just be mindful of that, that even if you've got 4 or 5 on there, you're not probably going to take 4 or 5. So we do have some resources here that we want to point out for you guys. RateMyProfessors.com. This is a really great place to go if you want to find out which class to take. When you're looking at that list in the class schedule for the college, you're going to see lots of sections for some of these classes. If they're a general ed class, like an English 101 or something like that, you could see 10 or more sections, right? And how do you know which one to sign up for? Well, one is going to be, what time is it? Is it going to work with your schedule? But the other is going to be, let's find out a little bit more about the teachers, because that can make a big difference. So Rate My Professors is a good resource to go and check out. Understand, take it with a grain of salt. Typically the people who are going to actually go and review a professor are either going to have a lot of good things or a lot of bad things to say. But if there's more good than bad, you can kind of take a look at what people are saying about those professors. If they're saying they're dull and boring, and then you get in the class and they're like, oh wow, they were right, they were dull and boring, maybe that's a good one to avoid. Or if they're like, hey, this teacher was amazing, maybe that's one to look at. Or hey, this teacher was great, but it was a lot of work. All things to consider, and you can find that information out on Rate My Professors. The California Community Colleges website. So if you're not sure what the local college is in your area, you can go in and put in your zip code. It'll tell you what's close, which colleges are close to you, and you can start that process. Another resource here is the California Virtual Campus, cvc.edu. They have a whole list of basically every online course being offered at the California community colleges in the state. So if you're looking for a specific class online and you can't find it locally, go on there and you can do an online class in like a college in Sacramento, right? Because you don't have to go in person. And so if you find the class you want, that's a great resource for finding it somewhere that you can't find it locally. So yeah, we've got a couple of questions here. How is concurrent class different from an AP class? That's a really, I think this was our last slide, right? Yeah. So
Do you want me to stop the recording?
Sure.